Moving? One day my father said we're moving to St. Petersburg, Russia. I was shocked and sad. My first thought was, I don't speak Russian. How I communicate? How I make friends? Then I realized Russia is super far from Granny. How would I be able to talk to Granny? When I would be awake, she would be asleep. When she was awake, I would be asleep. How could I say goodbye and still manage to stay close? When we left, it was like my life had ended. I was beyond sad. I really miss Granny. I missed playing at her house, watching movies with her, and especially missed eating her unlimited supply of bacon. In St. Petersburg, we lived in an apartment, not a house. There was no Mexican food, trips to GameStop, or bacon. There were so many things I wanted to tell Granny. I wanted to tell her all the details of my day. How there was no yard or grass, and it rained all the time. We were able to occasionally Skype, but it wasn't the same. I missed her. When I started school, I hated it. Everyone was rude to me, and I had no friends. It was the worst. I dreaded waking up. Life was so miserable. I decided to run away. I knew the only person that could help me make things better was Granny. I really had no idea how I could travel all the way to Clovis, New Mexico. But I knew I had to try. One night, in the dark of night, after my parents and sister had fallen asleep, I stole a credit card from my mom's purse, grabbed my bow and arrow, and left. Waiting outside of our building was a motorcycle. A bright orange motorcycle. I had never seen it before. It was like it was waiting for me. I had never driven a motorcycle. I was terrified. My heart was pounding. My forehead was dripping with sweat, but I knew there was no turning back. I was shaking, but when I sat down on the motorcycle, it started. When I grabbed the handles, it started going. It was going so fast I could barely hold on. I saw an image. I squeezed my eyes and shook my head. When I opened my eyes again, my dad was wearing a shirt that said God of Protection and told me to not be afraid. I followed him, and in what felt like only a few minutes, I was at the airport. When I got to the airport, I realized I did not have my passport. I reached in my pocket and pulled out a plane ticket and my passport. I did not know where to go, but looked up and to see Granny in a sweatshirt that said Goddess of Fitness. And she said, "Come with me. I will show you the way." She led my through security and passport control so fast no one even saw us. Once I safely in the terminal, Granny disappeared. I looked everywhere for her, but could not find her. I was so tired, hungry, and sad that Granny had left. I sat in a chair waiting for my plane. My stomach was growling and I wanted to eat so bad. I looked up and saw Uncle Michael wearing an apron that said, "God of Pizza," and he handed me a box of his homemade pizza. Next to him was Grampy in a shirt that said, "God of Drinking," and he handed me a huge bottle of Coke. I was so hungry and thirsty, I ate all the pizza and drank all the Coke in a few minutes. I was so stuffed and had lost all track of time. I went to check the schedule screen and saw that the flight to Clovis, New Mexico was departing, and I was to miss my flight. All of a sudden, I was being lifted up in the air and was flying. My cousin Kyle, God of Wings, had given me wings. I was able to fly to my gate. I boarded the airplane and was seated. The flight was 10 hours and I quickly became bored. I looked up to see Emmy wearing a tank that said Goddess of YouTube, and Aunt Karen wearing a sparkly sweater that said Goddess of Shopping, sitting next to me. Then gave me an awesome computer with all of my favorite YouTube videos. I was thrilled, but eventually became so tired I fell asleep. I woke up when the flight attendant announced that we had arrived to Clovis. When we landed, Uncle Alan was waiting for me, wearing a hoodie that said God of Technology. He handed me a smartphone and I ordered a taxi to go to Granny's. taxi came, so I got in and he drove me to Granny's house. When he got there, the driver asked for money. When I told him I didn't have any, he got mad at me and pulled a shotgun. I quickly pulled out my bow and arrow and shoot him. Nothing was going to stop me from seeing Granny. I put my bow back on my pack and went into Granny's house. When I arrived, I saw my entire family. I was in shock. We were also so happy to be reunited. I shared how sad I was about moving to St. Petersburg and having to tell everyone goodbye. I told them how I had decided to run away to Granny's. I told them about my adventure and how I had seen one of them throughout my journey. They embraced me and said, "We know. We know you had left and were praying that God would protect you and use people along your path to give you everything you need."